Hey guys, welcome to Throttle Back Thursday. So today I want to talk a little bit about lane filtering. Okay, so here a few years back, lane filtering became law in Utah to where you could lane filter. It was put on a trial basis, which we're still in that trial basis, and I'll kind of talk about that here in a little bit. But so what is lane filtering? So lane filtering is the ability of a motorcycle to travel in between stopped vehicles. Okay, the key word there being stopped. Okay, lane splitting. Lane splitting is the opposite of that. So that's the ability of motorcycles to go in between moving vehicles, right? We don't have lane splitting here. That's not what we have, and that's still illegal. A lot of people get those confused. So lane filtering in the state of Utah is laid out in this way. You are able to lane filter, one, when the vehicles have stopped, right? You can go in between the vehicles. Two, if the road that you're traveling on has two lanes going the same direction, okay? At least two lanes going the same direction. Three, the speed limit for that road has to be 45 miles per hour or less. This is key because I see a lot of guys screwing up on this one. 45 or less. Not 50, not 55, not 65, 70 on the freeway. 45, okay? So I know for me, my experience has been traveling a lot down Redwood Road over in my neck of the woods, Utah County, Pioneer Crossing, right? A lot of people lane splitting on these, or I'm sorry, lane filtering on these, and it's illegal. As a matter of fact, on Pioneer Crossing, I was sitting at a light and a guy was lane filtering, and he lane filtered right next to a cop. Okay, well the speed limit on that road's 50, right? So he lane filtered right next to a cop. That cop pulled him over because the cop knew the law. It's 45 or less, okay? If you're doing it, Bo, you're breaking the law. And here's the thing about that too. So if you're lane filtering and you're doing it legally, so you're on a road that has two lanes going, at least two lanes going the same direction, 45 miles per hour or less, blah, blah, blah. You're doing everything right. And somebody in a car does something to cause you to crash. Opens a door, sticks their hand out, whatever, right? They do something to cause you to crash. It's their fault, right? Insurance is gonna make them pay for it. Hopefully you wasn't going fast enough to get hurt. That's another thing. You have to be going less than 15 miles an hour when you do it. Okay, but it's their fault. If you're doing it illegally, if you're on a 50 mile per hour road and you're lane filtering, right? Somebody opens their car door, you crash. Guess whose fault it is? It's yours because you're doing it illegally. Okay, so keep that in mind. That if you're lane filtering illegally and something happens, it's going to be on you. If you're doing it legally and something happens, somebody's paying your medical bills and pain and suffering. Okay? All right, so that's a big thing for me, a big rant, because I see it all the time. And the other thing for this is that we are on a trial basis, and I kind of alluded to this earlier. This law is not a set in stone law. It has I think it's called a sunset date. Okay? So that's whenever it's temporary. It's a trial basis. Then the lawmakers will go back, they'll look at the data, they'll see what happened, and then they'll make a decision whether to make it a permanent law or not. But right now it is not permanent. It's a trial basis. So all you guys that are out there and you're lane filtering illegally, you just became a talking point for the politicians that don't want this to be law, to use you as an example of why it shouldn't be law. And then we get it taken away. You lane filter illegally and you get a ticket, now you're a data point for why not to have this law. Okay? So if you want to do it illegally, which I'm not the lane filtering police. I mean, I have my opinions on my soapbox, but I'm not the lane filtering police. If you decide to do it illegally and you get caught, or if maybe you go past a politician that doesn't like the lane filtering law and he sees it, you're now an example for them to take it away from us. You've now become a talking point or a data point for them to take it away from us. We don't need that. This is a safety issue for us, right? We want to keep it in place. So please, please understand, 45 miles per hour or less, okay? Let's see what else. So we talked about 15 miles per hour or less on the speed. As soon as the cars stop moving, you have to get into a lane. One lane or the other, you got to get into a lane. As soon as the cars start moving, they have to let you into the lane also, okay? If you're doing it legally and they do not let you into a lane and they cause an accident, that's them. That's on them, okay? Let's see, what else? Turn lanes. The two lanes that you're traveling on have to be going in the same direction. So even in a turn lane, let's say you have two turn lanes that are both going to be turning in the same direction. This one can be a little tricky because legally, technically according to the law, when you make a turn, you're changing directions. Okay, so hence you're supposed to put a blinker on and stuff. Anytime you change a direction or change a lane, right, you're supposed to have your blinker on. So in a turn lane, you're changing directions. I think if you did it in a turn lane, you could argue that you were legal, but then you might not be legal, right? I personally try to stay away from turn lanes if I'm lane filtering. And I lane filter, but I don't do it a lot, and most of the time it's because I forget, right? I'll just naturally pull up behind a car and just sit there, and then I see somebody lane filter up beside me. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I can lane filter. I just forget, right? So these things are put in place, these laws are put in place to make it safe for you and to make it safe for the cars that are beside you, okay? So please, if you have any questions about lane filtering, get a hold of me, get a hold of Abate. Abate has all the information on lane filtering. Get a hold of some kind of resource to educate you if you have any questions. All right, guys, it's great talking to you, and I will see you next Thursday.